Well, hello. I'm sorry for the delay for this soul care session, but I'm glad you were able to get on and listen. Tonight I'm going to be talking about the spiritual impact of unhealthy fear. We respond to all kind of negative thoughts every time we have something going on with us, whether it's our date or mate or whatever. We've got something, it could even be a child that's just going to be rebellious. But anyway, we respond in a negative manner, and this kind of negative fear is very unhealthy. See, what it does, it causes us to have a lot of different type of emotional swings, and it starts to paralyze us, and it seems to be in a way that we can't even see how to make a next move or think the right way for the next thing. But we tend to overreact. We tend to take everything very evasive in action, and we become frazzled. We become so overwhelmed that we start to move in too many directions at one time. It seems like we're just spinning in a circle. We seem to be overwhelmed by this fear to the point that we choose to respond sometimes by just hiding out our real true selves, or trying to, hide out in the way that we would prefer to prevent from being exposed or encountering that fear. But there is a spiritual impact that we need to look at. Now, in this response, in this negative way, what this fear does is it tends to have us to act or don't act the way that we should bring the relief that we should bring when we feel this thing. It tends to allow us to embrace a fear, causing us to not want to move forward or not act out what God is trying to get us to act out. And we also find ourselves failing to focus or to respond to a situation. We just be like, duh. But if this thing continues, we find ourselves in this dangerous place that we sometimes trying to figure out how we're going to get ourselves out of. But you find yourself in this paralyzed kind of situation. I know I've been there, where you have to make this real serious decision, and you don't know, if you're making the right decision. You prayed, you fasted, but yet you still feel this sense of fear that you're making the wrong decision, or that things are not going to come out the way that it should. But this spiritual impact of this unhealthy fear, what happens is that, this fear is there though for our protection. Now, everything that comes at us that seems like so overwhelming is not necessarily from God, because God does not give us. We give that spirit the opportunity to come to us, because God has not given us a spirit of fear. He's given us a spirit of love, power, and of a sound mind. And so you got to know that an unhealthy fear, it literally diminishes everything about us spiritually. And when we're overwhelmed, we tend to find all these different ways to make ourselves feel like we're going to fail, or we can't even witness, or we find ourselves risking the very thing that God wants us to reach out and do. We refuse to do that, and we also find ourselves trying to respond in love when people have really hurt us. We have a difficult time responding in love. We be angry, and in a subtle way we demonstrate that through our behavior. And then the other thing it does, it quenches our faith. Our faith tends to be wavering, or our faith seems to not want to be as strong as we normally would when we weren't fearful about a situation. See, what this fear does, it not only destroys, it demoralizes. It takes the very thought and robs us of our hope. And so we got to know that we can no longer have have fear to overtake us, because if we do, we'll lose light of hope. We'll give in to despair. We'll give in to depression. We'll give in to dejection and rejection. And so we lose an awareness of the possibility of the dreams and the visions and the goals that God has given us. And so you got to know this is not from God. This is very unhealthy fear. We all have basic fears. We face a lot of basic fears every day of our lives, and these are all normal. But when they start to paralyze us, that's when we got to take a good look at what is going on in our lives. And we got to remember, we need to think about what God has told us over and over again in Matthew 10:25-26. Jesus said, if they have called the master of the house Beelzebub, how much more will they call those of his household? Therefore, Do not fear them, for there is nothing covered that will not be revealed, and hidden that will not be known. So you got to know that nothing is hidden from God. So you should not fear anything. But these basic fears, every person faces these. And it seems to be that it's not only at now in our present time, but also in the eras of times before we were even born. People just had this basic fear that we were born with, to be able to find ourselves just going back and forth with the same old thing over and over again. You wonder, why am I so fearful about this thing? We fear poverty. We fear death. We feel the loss of love. We feel rejection. We feel old age. We feel criticism. And criticism is one of the great ones today that we fear, because we're always worried about what other people think about us. Or we worried about the things that people are saying about us, or the issues of what's surrounding my finances, surrounding what I'm going to do when I get a certain age, or my kids going to have to take care of me. We're thinking on all these things. And when we can really start to think how to strengthen our family, how to strengthen our relationships, then we can respond more positively, not so negative. And so when we do nearly visualize the potential, how the negative consequences that might happen, this will cause us to be so overwhelmed. And this is why these criticisms and things like that cause us to have a spirit of fear has overwhelmed us for over a decade. And so in closing, I want to say this. Jesus said that the fear of man brings a snare, but whosoever trusts in the Lord shall be safe. You must allow God to shape you and strengthen you in the place where the devil has tried to continue to be the accuser of the brethren, and to try to bring on fear where you cannot continue to do the things God has called you to do. God bless you. I pray this soul care message has helped.